Hello, and welcome to today's webcast, Optimize Claims Processing for Medicaid, How to Save Money, Improve Accuracy, and Increase Efficiency for Healthcare Benefits. I'm Bill Riles, Senior Fellow for the Center for Digital Government and also IT Professor for Tulane University. And I'm excited to serve as the host for today's webcast. And I just want to say thank you for joining us. We're going to have a great session over the next 30 minutes. We have a few housekeeping notes for you on the screen. Also, during today's webcast, you will be able to connect with your peers via LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. For those of you on Twitter, please use #GovTechLive to share key takeaways, quotes, and learnings from today's webcast. Joining me today to discuss this timely topic are Kelly Carson and Shankar Balakrishnan. Kelly is the General Manager in Claims and Financial Program Administration Solutions for Conduent Government Health Services. She brings over 30 years of experience with government healthcare operations, including contract and administration management, claims and financial administration and reporting, managed care, and provider relations operations. Kelly leads the team responsible for research and analysis on current healthcare reform legislation. She has contributed to the successful implementation of large, complex information systems. She has great experience in the industry performing Medicaid information technology architecture assessment and related activities. And she has led one of the first teams to develop MITA-driven documentation for MMIS implementation. Shankar is the Vice President and Technology General Manager for Conduent Government Health Services. He brings 18 years of information technology and software engineering experience with 12 plus years in supporting government health services. Shankar is a technology evangelist leading ROI-backed digital transformation, building hyper-scalable, secure, cloud-native modular applications with microservices architecture. He has expansively built portfolio including claims, financials, provider, TPL, member, health analytics, and care management, and many more. Today, we're going to have an important discussion around state Medicaid programs and how government agencies can use technology to increase efficiency and save operational money in processing healthcare benefits for citizens. The majority of this Lunch and Learn webcast will be a panel discussion with our expert speakers, Kelly and Shankar. But we also want this session to be as interactive as possible. So please submit any questions that you may have by using the Q&A button on your screen. We would love to hear from you and address as many questions that you may have during our panel discussion. We have a few minutes dedicated at the end of this webinar to address any questions that are submitted. Medicaid programs that operate inside of state government offices face an array of logistical challenges and large transactional volumes. And the number of transactions looks to be on a continual increase and incline. During the COVID-19 pandemic, millions of Americans suffered job losses and declining incomes. As a result, more people turned to the government for help in covering their healthcare needs. Government Medicaid offices saw a drastic increase in overall inquiries, citizen interaction, and overall operational output needed to support this critical citizen service. According to data from recent research, national Medicaid and CHIP enrollments grew by nearly 9% from February 2020 to September 2020, and the majority of nearly half of all the states surveyed said that they expect Medicaid expenditures will be even higher in fiscal year 2022 than it was in FY 2021. These logistical and operational challenges result in fewer claims paid correctly and even on time, longer processing times, obstacles related to electronic claim submissions, all resulting in a negative citizen experience. Medicaid government agencies are starting to look at modern technology solutions to overcome these new challenges. The right technologies, and especially the right strategic technology partners, can help Medicaid government agencies navigate and even excel in this new landscape by reducing costs and improving outcomes for all stakeholders. So let's jump right in with our expert speakers. I've asked both Kelly and Shankar to share a little bit about Conduent, in the overall Medicaid landscape before we get into our panel discussion. So with that, Kelly Shanker, I'm going to turn it over to you for a few minutes before we get started.
Thank you so much, Bill. First of all, on behalf of Conduent, Shanker, and myself, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to spend just a little bit of time with you today to talk about Medicaid and what's going on in the industry today, specifically around how to optimize claims processing. And so Conduent has been in the Medicaid marketplace for over 50 years in various capacities and through companies that we've started out with, from ACS and Xerox, and now moving on to Conduent. And most importantly, we want you to know that we take all of that history and all of that knowledge and apply it to the services and the solutions that we bring to our customers. And that drives our mission statement, which is to provide that mission critical program administration solution for the state agencies that administer their Medicaid programs, with the primary goals to reduce costs, streamline and optimize your operations, and to ensure that you meet your compliance and regulatory guidelines. Boils down to, it's up to us to ensure that we provide you with an exceptional experience in customer service and delivery, and that's what we strive to each and every day. Shanker, I'm going to turn it over to you right now to talk about some of our solutions and how we bring them to the market.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Kelly. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. As Kelly mentioned, she spoke about our mission statement of making sure that we provide the best bang for the buck for our customers. We've been in this business for 50 years, so the rich history of evolution continues. As we started looking at the whole concept of modularity and digital transformation, we wanted to first establish what is our guiding principles towards building our products. And that's how we formed the 6 tenets of all Conduent solutions. First and foremost, we knew that we wanted to be modular, not just because that was the compliance, but truly because that gives the power of technology to the customers. We did not go the route of just taking our systems from our data center and putting it into the cloud, calling it modular and calling it off a day. We truly built our systems in such a way that they are interoperable and they are microservices architecture driven. And what does that mean from an end client standpoint? What does that mean to you? In an always connected world now, a lot of states are bringing in a separate unified portal vendor. They're bringing in a separate member vendor. They're bringing in a separate provider vendor. Now, on the unified portal, you want the providers to come in and look at your RAs. And if you don't have a truly modular API-driven system, you're going to be developing an interface for that every single time you need data back and forth from your system. Our systems being truly modular, there's an API catalog already available. It's right out of the box. So tomorrow you want the RAs to be shown on your portal, you can just consume it. Same thing with scalability. I think Bill mentioned very articulately about the percentages of Medicaid claims volume going up, and the trajectory seems to be increasing. We need solutions that we implement today that can scale up towards the next decade, which is why we went the whole cloud native architecture route. To give you a simple analogy, 15 years ago, if you thought about any of the retail industry, they built their systems for Thanksgiving Day. If your infrastructure can handle Thanksgiving or the day after Thanksgiving, now the sales start on Thanksgiving Day itself. But if you can handle the day after Thanksgiving, you can handle any volume of transactions. And that mindset remained for a very long period of time. But what it did was you were paying for the day after Thanksgiving volume of infrastructure the rest of the 364 days. Is it really necessary? No. Which is why when we built our scalable architecture, you can scale up and down your infrastructure at the drop of a dime. You have a huge eligibility file coming in, scale up your infrastructure automatically, and then scale it back to normal operating levels. It has to be reliable. A few industries can really say this, but we make a difference in the lives of the citizens. And Medicaid systems are something that has to be always on, has to be reliable, which is why we harness the power of the cloud to have more than 99.999% uptimes, accuracy in processing, and the availability to, flip to disaster recovery if the need ever arose. They have to be secure. I mean, this goes without saying. Every day we open up the news, there's an attack on the Colonial Pipeline, there's an attack on the JBL meat processing plant. We live in a world where digitalization has brought in this security, which is always in the top of our mind. So our systems are highly secure, be it with regards to compliance, be it with regards to people and technology. That is something that is truly the backbone of our systems. Configuration is very key because the speed to market for the program changes that truly make a difference in members' life is achieved through configuration. We do not want our clients to wait for 3 months, 4 months for a code release in order to make a program change, which will bring positive impact to the members. And last but not the least, value, right? With the pandemic and with the way the states are operating, there is a budget crisis. And we knew that we wanted to help. We wanted to make sure that the offering that we provide is beneficial to the states in terms of value, be it federal mandates, be it tech stack upgrades. That was a key part of our offering. Just a quick snapshot, we built all this wonderful technology, but we did not go all open source, all unsupported. And the big reason is we wanted to offer software as a service, but powered by COTS. If you look at most of our application infrastructure is name brand products like Blaze Rules Engine, Postgres for your databases, Cognos reports, Docfinity for your enterprise content management. And the reason is with these name brand vendors, we are able to build a software product which is not just highly functional, but also highly supported, patched, and secure, which is why our mantra is SaaS powered by COTS. I'll turn it over to you, Bill, and I think we can get into the discussion.
Thank you very much, both Kelly and Shanker. This is very interesting stuff. I took some notes, and I have some questions for you during our panel discussion, especially around the modular architecture, implementation, and scalability. Very, very interesting stuff there. Before we get started, I would like to ask our audience a question. So audience members, if you'll look at the screen, I posted a question for us. You take a few minutes to answer. It's a simple question. What is more important to you in choosing a claims processing system? Managed care support, cost, speed to implement, or analytics? I know the answer, everybody's thinking, well, all of them, right? Well, for the purposes of this quick survey, you can't select all of them. Just which one is most important, or the one you feel is most important. Let's see what the results are at this point. So far, we got a tie. Managed care support at 50%, and speed to implement also 50%. So let's give the other members a few minutes, see if we get a few more choices. And it's I always enjoy doing these audience polling questions because it gives us some quick real-time insight that we can discuss. We got a few more responses. Still, managed care is still leading the way with 25%. We got some joining in on analytics as well. Cost at this point doesn't seem to be a factor. We'll wait just a second for a couple more responses to come in and see what they look like. All right. Trending very similar. Looks like managed care support is going to be the clear front runner. So we'll stop there and discuss that. So let's just leave this on the screen for a second before we get into our other discussion. So Kelly and Shanker, does these results surprise you, or is this what you've seen in the industry going forward? With managed care being the clear leader in this polling question, with speed to implement and also analytics carrying some weight as well, but not so much cost. What does this say to you guys?
Well, I think, number one, I'm not totally surprised. I think if you had all of the above, that most certainly would have been the choice of most of our clients out there. But, given the fact that, the transition, particularly in the Medicaid industry, to ensure that, Medicaid is seen as a viable choice to any other commercial product and leaning more towards managed care and ensuring that there's outcome-based analysis and value-based payments that are out there and available. The fact that managed care support and how vendors can provide solutions that enable our clients to be successful in those areas are not surprising. Most certainly, speed to implement is no surprise, given some of the challenges in the past with implementations and the legacy systems, and of course, data and the ability to manage data and understand what the data means is always important to our clients.
Yeah, I totally second what Kelly is saying, and a lot of these are kind of married together if you think about it, especially with states looking at managed care populations, but they're trying to layer in a layer of analytics on top of the managed care claims encounters and how we process claims. How do we compare it to the value we get from fee-for-service versus the value we get from managed care as the industry tends to go towards managed care? The system has to be capable of obviously handling both of those types of claims, but more importantly, giving actionable intelligence to the clients to make sure that they can pick and choose what's right for their programs.
So Kelly, I'm going to start off with you.
Okay.
Shankar talked about modularity, building, the modular system architecture. Why should states consider moving to a modular system versus staying with their current system that's probably customized to their needs?
Well, first of all, there are the federal regulations that are driven by MITA, the Medicaid Information Technology Architecture, that are driving states to move towards service-oriented architecture and those commercial off-the-shelf type products that can allow for more ability and agility to be able to manage the programs. But, if you just kind of take away the regulatory requirement that's associated with it, really look at the benefits associated with going to a modular system, you most certainly can find some advantages there. First of all, if you think about any government healthcare program, it's made up of 5 major components. You've got your population, those are the members you provide services to. The providers, those are the ones that qualify to give the services. You've got the services themselves, the procedure codes, the diagnosis codes that are supported, all of the limitations around those 2 parameters that drive, what is provided and what is allowed. You've got reimbursement. How do the providers get paid for the services they provide? And then from the state agency's perspective, you got the funding source. That's, how are we going to pay for the benefit and administrative costs associated with this program. So any decision that a state agency makes as it relates to Medicaid can really be tied to one of those 5 basic components. And what a modular enterprise does is it gives you more agility in managing how you respond to those 5 different components. You can address faster response in terms of those implementations. That was one of the items that was on your polling list, with having more configurable systems, which Shankar talked about in our architecture, and, we'll talk about over and over again in relationship to, the benefits that the solutions that are in the market today bring to the clients. You have end-user-driven changes. The changes don't have to be done by a developer. They are in the hands of the users themselves to basically through configurable parameters and Windows, GUI-based Windows, be able to make those changes pretty much on the fly. You also, in a modular arena, move away from our traditional legacy framework in terms of architecture for the industry into more of that modular approach, which drives competition. So now you've got those COTS products, those best-of-breed boutique kind of services, vendors, solutions that can tailor towards, our states and our clients' needs as it relates to the particular programs or products that they're looking for. And you're not dependent upon one vendor for one solution. It drives the vendors to basically bring their A games every day, each and every day. Because that it's a lot easier now for the states to be able to, determine whether or not the service delivery that's provided meets their needs. And if not, they're not tied to having to make a change at a larger, more global scale. They can isolate that service delivery towards that particular module and make the changes as they need to. So most certainly it puts more of the decision making, the ability to adapt and change into our clients' hands. And that's the advantage that a modular enterprise brings to them from a business perspective, not to mention all of the advantages that Shanker's already talked about just in terms of value, scalability, the ability to ensure that you're bringing secure products to the marketplace. So you add all of that together and you've got a lot of advantages both from a business and a technology perspective.
Yeah, that's outstanding. Yeah, let's stay on this modular concept. And you mentioned that Shanker talked about some of these other benefits. Shanker, you talked about the scalability and the speed of implementation because of the architecture. I got just a direct question for you. How quickly can you implement this system?
That's a loaded question, isn't it?
No, right?
Yeah. So I will answer the question, but before that, I want to kind of take a couple of minutes to explain. This is a problem everybody faces. All vendors, all states, right? You start off with an implementation. These are long, complex implementations. How do we solve that problem? And how do we solve that problem beyond we got tight governance, we got project management, we got requirements locked down, the regular SDLC. How do we get technology to help us enable to solve the problem? That was one thing as we were talking about our solution tenants, when we were brainstorming how do we move towards this digitalization path that our teams were constantly thinking. And that's why we chose the path of the full microservices approach for our products. In today's world, when you do a claims implementation, it's requirements, development, test, UAT, implement. And that cycle is the entire cycle. So when the clients, the states look at their results, they're looking at it in UAT, probably a year to 15 months down the line. And if there are changes, if it doesn't work the way it's supposed to work, it is already too late. That's where most of the problems start. So we said, what if we could do this in a staggered manner? What if we could do it in such a way with our microservices architecture that we can go live with just the inpatient claims? Everything else can still be being built. We can go live with just the dental claims. We can go live with just the service authorization piece. The microservices architecture, because it encompasses the entire business process flow, enables us to do that. So now we move from a big bang approach to a more staggered approach, and you don't even have to go live, but you can stagger it to use the state's bandwidth to the best of its abilities to get the conference room pilot kind of work done. Instead of doing design, develop, and implement, we changed it on its head and said, let's do configure, implement, test. And that's the way we can kind of reduce the speed of the implementation. On a more direct front, I would say that anywhere from 12 to 18 months is considered standard for a claims implementation. It depends on the complexity if you have benefit plan. It depends on the population, depends on the conversion of the data. So there's a lot of factors that go into it. But 15 to 20 months is kind of what we see in the market on average.
Yeah, very good points. And I've seen that as well when I was a state government enterprise architect. By the time you write the specs, go through all the procurement red tape, and the original specs are not even valid 2 or 3 years later when you actually implement the product. So the modular architecture is a very, very unique concept, and I like that. So let's talk about things change. And in the Medicaid world, there's always changes. So Kelly, how does Conduit handle the frequent regulatory update requirements and changes to the managed care populations? How do you guys handle that with your solution as well?
Sure. And most certainly we understand that each and every day. You've got new federal guidelines coming out. The states have their own, directives that are coming out of the legislative sessions that, they have on an annual basis or a biannual basis or whatever that time frame is. It changes based on, who's in office and what party's in office and what platforms are being promoted at the time. And so we recognize all of those things. And it really comes back to the ability to put the decision-making as it relates to those 5 components that I talked about before that make up the Medicaid program: population, reimbursement, services, provider, and the decisions around those into the hands of the end user through the configurability of the system. And so when Shanker talks about, our Blaze rules engine, and the benefits that it brings by being able to put those parameters into decision points that can be managed through, the windows that the end user selects in terms of those decisions, that makes the ability to change much faster, gives them the power to drive when those changes go into effect and how quickly that happens. And that's really where you have the transformational change, when you don't have to go through that whole development work associated with code changes and so on and so forth. It's really based on the combination of parameters you choose through the configurability of the system.
Shankar, I got a question for you, a little more of the techie details. I know from a state government's perspective, we're all concerned about cybersecurity. Can you tell us a little bit about the security features in the solution and, especially given the sensitive nature of Medicaid data, what type of security is built in?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's paramount on all of our minds, or it should be. Conduit's products all come fully secure right out of the box. So what we take is we do what is called a 360-degree view to security. It's a combination of a few things. First and foremost is technology. Our systems are built in a way that they will pass compliance of your NIST 853 audits, which is your gold standard for Medicaid. They will and our systems are in the cloud, so they pass the FedRAMP guidelines for security. So that's the first two key most important things, and those come right out of the box even before we begin the implementation. Then there is the whole concept of people, process, and technology, right? So you got your technology covered because we're building it in a way that it meets the compliance standards. There's the process part of it, which is extremely important. Now, thankfully, we've been doing Medicaid for the last 50 years. So the processes that we have learned over the last 50 years, we've perfected it in terms of how do we do roles and privilege matrix, how do we do access controls, how do we do audits of, what are the system IDs that need password change every 3 months. So those are things that we have perfected. We have standard operating guides. Again, we come in with those day one of the implementation. And then there's the people aspect of it. It's a constant training effort. Most of the times it's the people aspect of it that gets us in trouble with security. If you read most of the news, it's more people training that lands us in hot water. So there's that part of it. And then the last thing that we do is we don't trust ourselves. We don't think the fox should kind of guard the hen house. So we have third-party auditors who come in and audit our system, be it SOC 1, SOC 2, be it annual penetration testing. We engage third parties so they can come and poke holes in our system. Knock on wood, we've been very, very strong, but we do that because we want them to assess our system so that we can constantly keep improving. Securities are not a one-time gig. It's a constant process.
So we got a couple minutes left. I want to address some audience questions that we have. We have one question from the audience that talks about every state is different. They understand that you have this modular system that's kind of core and complex, but how do you address every state's regulations a little different? Kelly, you mentioned that a little bit earlier, but can you talk about how every state may be a little bit different? Does your solution apply?
Sure. And every state is different. The one thing we have learned in Medicaid, as much as we can tell clients over the years, that Medicaid has the basic foundation of the federal rules and regulations that every state must address. It also allows for the flexibility for every state to determine how they want to address them, in what manner and to what degree. And if nothing else, that makes every state different, in addition to, as I said, just the specific strategy, overall planning, and direction that the states want to take from the governor's directives on down through their legislature, and how the states must adopt that. So again, it comes back to those, and I'll say it again, those 5 components. And it's in those 5 components of the Medicaid program and how you make your decisions around those that drive the decisions. And so with the configurability of our systems, the ability to use those COTS products to allow us to choose and identify the particular criteria that will be applied towards each one of the benefit plans that the states determine is appropriate for their particular programs, how those benefit plans need to be managed, to what degree those benefit plans will be limited, and then those benefit plans drive, and the decisions around them drive how the claims are processed and paid. And that is how we address the unique criteria for each one of the states, is basically working with them on a side-by-side basis and working through each one of those decision points to understand how the system needs to be configured in order to meet and address their needs.
Thank you very much.
On a side note, a fun note, when I first completed my first implementation of Medicaid in 2013, I told my then boss, I know Medicaid. And she said to me, you know one Medicaid, you have 49 more to go. And that is a true statement.
Absolutely. So it's good you guys have that vast experience to understand that there are differences wherever you go. Well, I want to be respectful for our time commitment, so we'll have to wrap it up here. It's been a great conversation. In closing, I just want to say thank you again to Kelly and Shanker for sharing your insights on today's webcast, and also thank you to Conduit for making it possible to have this important webcast discussion today. And also, very importantly, thank you to our audience for spending time with us. We look forward to seeing you again at another government technology event. And I got to say a quick shout out to Ann, who posted a question to a Roll Wave. So absolutely, Roll Wave, good to see you, another Tulanian. If you'd like to download a certificate of attendance, you can do so by clicking on the certification icon at the bottom of the screen. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.